The families that don't create generational wealth now will be left behind. Fortunately, there are only 4 resources that matter to achieve that goal, and the 3 most important ones are totally free. So in this video, I'm going to cover all 4 of them, why they matter, and most importantly, how to get more of them. So let's get straight into it. The 4 resources or types of capital that matter are human, intellectual, social, and financial. And these are listed in order of importance. If you ignore the previous ones, everything else will fall apart. So let's start at the beginning with the most important resource, human capital. If you don't get this right, your family is guaranteed to fail. Now, human capital encompasses your family members, your culture, your connection, heirlooms, faith, governance structures, and arguably your family estate or compound, depending on how you categorize it. Have you ever seen that video where there's like dozens of Amish men and they all lift up a barn and then just walk it to a new place? I'll put it up on screen now. One Amish guy couldn't do that on his own, and it takes their entire tribe or their entire family to do this, to work towards this common goal. One man alone can't do much, honestly, in terms of the grand scheme of things, but with his family or with his tribe, he can move mountains, or a barn, I suppose. But if you just have more kids but no strong support system, then your family is not going to stay the course and feel that sense of belonging that's so necessary to your family. And with enough of a vision, then you can even impact the world. I mean, just look at like the Medici. They practically funded the Renaissance, not entirely, but a large portion of the Renaissance was funded by them. And if they weren't handing their wealth down between generations and they didn't have such a strong sense of unity, then the world would be a very different place today. So in order to increase your human capital outside of having more people, and again, having more people alone isn't enough, and if you need to know how to have more people in your family, then it's probably the wrong video to watch. Maybe go and ask your dad or something. But if you need to know how to increase your human capital, effectively it starts with the bond that you're having with your children, and the amount of investment you're putting into your family culture. Outside of that, strong connections and a strong sense of belonging for all of your children is essential. And yes, it starts young, but it also goes all the way out into adulthood. Your job as a father and patriarch of your family doesn't end just because your kids have turned 18. And what you should be doing already, but if you aren't, then again, it's not too late. You need to create a sense of belonging so your children know that they're part of something bigger than themselves. And this also not only comes from your parent-child bond, but it also needs to be formed between siblings as well. And you want to try and keep the external influences to a minimum. So think about things like schools and television, media, social media, YouTube, things like that. If you can keep that to a minimum, I'm not saying you have to eliminate it completely, but if they're a larger influence over your children than you are, then you're probably going to have a problem. I think a good example of these external influences are things like rap and gang culture, or even university. They affect deeply particular demographics. So let's use university students for example. They will go in like a pretty let's say normal or pretty tame, and they can be exposed to certain ideals within the university system that can radicalize them, for lack of a better word, and then they come out a completely different person. So these external influences can have a deeply negative impact on your family culture and effectively isolate your children forever. And like with most forms of capital, it's important to look at it from an asset and liability perspective. So if you look at it, liabilities, for example, they can be bad connections with your kids, or a bad relationship with your wife or your ex-wife for that matter. It could be your health and habits. If you're not staying healthy, then you are going to ultimately become a burden to your family. It could be addictions, and this can go all the way down to small things that you have, like junk food or smoking or alcohol or drugs. And not just you, but for your children, and potentially, if you're in the second generation of your dynasty, it could be siblings as well. And then ultimately there is the lack of strong culture as well. So having a bad family culture is definitely going to result in the dissolution of your family over the long run as well. And on the other hand, on the more positive note, there's assets as well. So these are things like happy, healthy family members, good leadership, which will probably come from you. It could be your culture and traditions. It could be the heirlooms that you have. There's also things like a family constitution, an emblem, and a family motto as well. But those things don't matter as much when you're starting out. I will be making videos on those in the future, if they aren't already out at the time you're watching this video. But just don't stress too much about these things. The main priority that you want to be focusing on to begin with is just being aware of creating an intentional family culture and building the connections with your kids. And that's not to say that you need to forego everything else. Like if you're not, you're probably the main provider of your family, or at least I hope so. So you obviously have to provide for your family and make sure that you're building your asset base. But if, for example, you go all in on your business for 20 years, and by the time you decide to start focusing on your human capital, your children all growing up, that's too late. So there needs to be some level of balance there, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, 75% human and then 25% everything else. It's just about being smart about it and making sure that you are not neglecting that human capital, because if you do, everything else is just going to fall apart.
You're watching Dynasty Foundry.
And that leads us to intellectual capital, the second most important resource for the aspiring dynasty. Intellectual capital is the cumulative information, the systems, the skills, intellect, and talent of your family. More knowledge means a greater capacity to earn and raise intelligent children, and ultimately have your family become more sophisticated. Now, if your children don't know, if your family for that matter doesn't know how to take what you have and grow it, then it's eventually going to be squandered. You're actually building your intellectual capital right now by watching this video, and I'll be covering more subjects both through the solo videos like this one and interviews that I'm starting up now too, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss those. The family that accumulates intellectual capital is going to become more intelligent and more sophisticated with each generation, and the family that neglects it is going to become dumber with each generation. So it's on you really to determine, well, first of all, become a lifelong learner. You need to make sure you're always building your intellectual capital, and this can come in many forms, whether it's from the skills that you build or the things that you learn, and then you determine what is essential for your family and for your children to learn, and this is going to be the base of the intelligence that you accumulate from generation to generation. For example, if you've learned how to invest or how to build or run a business, or you have a high value skill or trade, you can pass these down to their kids when they're young and potentially save them decades of time and a lot of mistakes in learning this. For example, I'm teaching my son about investing and building his wealth. He started ventures, one of them has been selling chickens, so he's taken our eggs from our chickens here and he's raised them with his sister. They've hatched them and then they've sold them by listing them on a local auction site. They've also started their own small e-commerce store. I also give them a little bit every week to invest into their investment portfolios. It's all automated, but they like seeing the numbers go up, and I'll take them to go and look at their businesses. And that's a great way for them to see what it is that they're investing in and understand, get a better understanding of what it is to invest and where their money from those investments is coming from as well. So passing down knowledge is something that is vastly underrated in this era of outsourced parenting. A lot of families are relying on the public education system or basically other people to do the majority of the raising of their kids whilst they go off and earn money. But this isn't what the dynastic family does. Learning as much as you can and then bestowing what's essential down to your kids, very valuable. Also, you want to be protecting your intellectual capital in terms of making sure your kids don't get brain rot effectively. Keep them away from shorts, keep them away from TikTok, and keep them away from screens in general as much as possible. And another good way to accumulate intellect is through the education of your kids. I'm a big advocate of homeschooling. A lot of wealthy families also do private tutoring or private schooling. But effectively what you want to be doing is starting young, making sure that you are at least supplementing their education with you, because you teach who you are as much as what you know. And you want to be leveraging their neuroplasticity as much as possible when they're young. So if you focus on your children and their education, taking it into your own hands and not leaving it to the public system, you're able to increase the sophistication of your family a lot faster as well. So my daughter has taken an interest in fine art and classic literature. She's like a huge reader, so she loves classic books. And at 17, she probably, sorry, not 17, 7, she probably has a deeper understanding and appreciation for both fine art and literature than I probably ever will, to be honest. One final thing that successful families do is they almost invariably send their kids away for a minimum of 2 years outside the family to bring new knowledge back. And that could be going and working a trade, it can go and working with somebody else within the same industry that the family business is in. It could be going to university as well. But the other benefit that this brings is growing new connections, which actually leads me to the next kind of capital that matters for your family. I'll hold your hand.
You're watching Dynasty Foundry.
Social capital is the network and reputation of you and your family, something that has become increasingly uncommon for the average family as people have become more online. The fact that this is happening in the world gives your family a distinct advantage if you go out of your way to establish more social capital for your family. So if you build more connections and expand your network deliberately, you're going to give more chances and opportunity to your family than other families are typically going to be exposed to. And the best example of it is a billionaire could lose every dollar and rebuild pretty quickly, probably maybe not to billionaire status, but at least a millionaire status, probably within weeks, purely because of his reputation and his network.
You want to associate with people that are better than you are. I mean, basically, you'll go in the direction of the people that you associate with, and you want to have the right heroes.
And the sooner that you start building yours, the sooner you'll start benefiting from it. Outside of your established network, another great way to build social capital is to go to the places where the kinds of people that you want to meet will be. So things like golf clubs are great, real estate clubs are another one, just clubs where a higher caliber or an ambitious person will be. And there's not normally a huge barrier to entry for these either. Like as long as you're presenting yourself well and you've got a firm handshake and you're well groomed, it's typically not that hard to network up as long as you're confident enough to approach people or at least get yourself involved in that community. Something that a lot of people underestimate is social media. Now it sounds a little funny to people that aren't involved in it, but social media can be a very, very powerful tool if you're using it as such. And it can also be a big time sink if you wind up doom scrolling. You don't want to be doom scrolling, you want to be the one creating the content and networking up with people as well. So it's kind of crazy that, let's say 50 years ago, it would have been very hard to connect with somebody that maybe is a public speaker or a prominent business figure in the community or in the world. But now they're just often an email or a DM away. But in order to kind of reach up and network with people that may be just a little higher level than you, you're going to need some form of reputation. And that is something that is a very slow burn. It takes years to build up a great reputation, generations to build up a strong family reputation, but it takes seconds to destroy it. And that again is why you prioritize human capital, because if you have a problem person within your family, they can do something to completely sabotage your family reputation. And while we're on the subject of other capital, you need to bestow the intellectual capital on your children on how to maintain and grow that social capital as well. Because if they're not educated in how to maintain the social capital that your family has and the reputation that they have, it's not that hard for them to potentially destroy it. Again, social media can be a weapon against that as well. If you do want to start building your reputation, probably the best thing that you can do right now is building up a social media account. Now, I used to be very anti-social media. I still don't think that you should be, addicted to it if you can help it. And you don't have to be like a huge influencer or a creator or anything like that. But building up some kind of back catalog of your opinions or content, and being present to somebody that you want to reach out to, not just cold DMing them, because that's probably going to have you hitting the spam box. But just interacting with them and just being present in their timeline is going to kind of enable you the chance to eventually be able to reach out to them or email them in some form as well. And in fact, you could start right now by dropping a comment or replying to somebody below. I actually read every single comment. There's typically a lot of them at this point, but I read every comment, and social media is the lowest friction way to start building your reputation and making more connections in the world.
You're watching Dynasty Found.
That brings me to the final resource to wrap this up. And just because financial capital is last in the rankings doesn't mean it isn't important. Obviously, we need money in order to build our legacy, in order to fund our families and feed them and take care of things and build assets. But no matter how big or modest your family fortune is, it will eventually be lost if you don't focus on the other three resources first. Now, you're probably going to be the first person to start building your family fund, and no matter how modest it is, with the proper mentality and culture, it will grow over the generations. Family money doesn't operate in the same realm or with the same metrics as individual wealth. It is used to create opportunities and improve the lives, and that's not the lifestyles of the individuals in a family. When you give it too freely, it's a recipe for destruction. You can think of the stereotypical trust fund kid in that regard. Oftentimes they are a product of a family that was too liberal with their financial capital and lacking in the human and intellectual departments. And you also probably have heard the rule at some point that you never touch the principal. Effectively what that means is you don't take out of the capital that you have, you only rely on the interest. So unlike personal wealth, which can be depleted through consumption, family money is a tool that's meant to multiply across generations. As soon as you start drawing down from it, you are eventually going to run into the problem that it's going to run out. And that's why a lot of fortunes are lost between 3 generations, is because they're relying on the funds and not the individuals being capable people effectively and providing for themselves. The family money is a tool that will create more opportunities for your family. It's not an opportunity to live off the backs of the works of your ancestors. Every dollar must serve a purpose that benefits the family as a whole. That could be funding child's education, it could be setting a new business, or it could be securing assets that appreciate over time. It's not there to necessarily be enjoyed like in a consumerist fashion, but it's to ensure that the family itself continues to thrive for generations. Financial capital can also serve as a safety net for your family to protect the other 3 kinds of resources. So imagine that you had I hope this isn't you, but if there was a granddaughter that needed life-saving operation, rather than deplete the wealth of the parents, the family would invest its money in that surgery in order to save the life of a family member. Therefore, preserving the human capital and making sure that everybody in the family gets what they need in order to live a complete and healthy life. I've actually even heard of families that use their family funds to buy houses for their children, and then the children rent the houses back of the family. So instead of the rent going outside, that money that they're earning going outside the family, it's a net inflow into the family, perpetually increasing the amount of wealth that the family has. And obviously you need some kind of structure to protect this. This is going to vary from country to country, but it usually comes in the form of a trust or a family office once you get past a certain point. But if you're just starting out, don't worry about it too much. It's only going to really matter once you're either older or you're getting to a certain point of wealth where you need to put some structures in place in order to protect the wealth that you're building. There are 3 paths to creating financial capital for your family. They are collective contribution, wealth events, and a family business. I'm going to put the first in the series of those videos up on screen now. No matter where you're at now, I guarantee you one of these paths will create generational wealth for your family. So definitely go and check this video out here. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe for more on turning your family into a dynasty. You can drop a like, it helps me out a lot, and if you're not sure what to comment, just comment capital, and I'll be sure to reply as well. I don't know what I'll say to that, but I'll say something, and I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully this one here, and bye for now.